This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free. He goes to Gibbs wide.
Edge of the box. Foley. Yes! Great goal! What a hit from Arena! Gibbs wide. They've only gone and done it again. Forest back in the lead. Through Morgan Gibbs White. Oh, and he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic.
Hello and welcome to this preview edition of Red Side Le Trent, where we come to you shortly ahead of Nottingham Forest visit to Arsenal, or trip to Arsenal, I should say. And we are joined by one regular, I think regular now, I guess it's the second time, we'll call you a regular now, regular Red Side Le Trent contributor in Alex Burns, who follows Arsenal up and down the country and around the world these days now. So firstly, welcome Alex, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. Good to be here.
Thank you very much. Azam, I'm joined by you as well. How are you doing today?
Yeah, sound. I'm just ready to get football back on track now and get through the crazy period now, which is everyone's favourite part in it of the season.
Very much so. I think like since the Islands, like the full-time whistle, it's sort of been like a sort of a countdown towards club football again. And we're very shortly going to get there. But obviously it's going to be a very difficult trip for Forest as we go to Arsenal. But Alex, how's the season been for you so far? I mean, I still feel like I'm already hearing conversations about is a title race done. I think that's been incredibly premature. I feel like Arsenal have had a much rougher run in terms of fixtures than other teams, especially Liverpool. I think a few of Liverpool's fixtures on paper before the season obviously looked a bit comfortable than Arsenal's. How do you think it's gone? I mean, obviously, are you still holding out hope that there can still be a big return? I mean, I'm sure the fact that there's no Rodri must be a big boost for you at Man City.
Yeah, it's been a bit of an indifferent kind of start to the season that I think a lot of people kind of expected, given how the transfer window went into kind of improving the squad, etc. Maybe not to the level some people expected, but on the back of last season and how we kind of finished or started 2024, how we went into the summer, I think a lot of people expected it to go quite a bit differently to how it's gone. It's been a bit a bit stuttering in certain aspects with suspensions and injuries, etc. Maybe out of stuff out of our control. Actually, Odegaard got injured on international duty and was out for 8 weeks. Saka got injured on England duty and missed a couple of games. So, apart from the obvious, which I think Liverpool being so good and Manchester City having Rodri missing now, and it seems half of their squad at the moment. To be fair. It's been a bit of a stuttering start and probably gone not the way a lot of people would have expected it to. But like you said, we have played, 5 of the top 8, I think, away from home already, or 4 of the top 8 away from home. So there's, with Odegaard back now and having had Rice and Saka not go away with internationals, I think, kind of the next 10 games really is where we're going to see whether Arsenal are really kind of in this title race or not. But for me, I think 9 points is a big gap. That's 3 losses without any of the teams around them dropping points.
How annoyed have you been, Alex, with Arsenal's summer? Because I just thought like you really just needed a striker to kind of complete the jigsaw almost. And I feel like spending however much you did on Mikel Moreno wasn't really worth it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, really. We did strengthen in the right places. I think obviously our left back situation's a bit weird because on paper it looks like we've got 4 of them, but obviously come off an ACL. Zinchenko is very much injury prone. Tierney's injury prone. Tomiyasu's injury prone, and even Calafiori himself is injury prone. So it's kind of a position that we did need actually a lot of options in. However, I think more with the midfield one, it's been underwhelming again, like you said, mate. In terms of like you thought it was maybe not worth it, but I think it's maybe mainly due to do with profile of the player and age more than anything. He got injured on his first training session from like a dislocated shoulder, was out for 2 months, and it's stuff like that that's kind of gone against us. Really, it's just pure luck. That I mean, that's just unheard of for that to happen. straight away. But I think for me, going back to the striker thing, I'm not in the camp where I think we need a number 9, because I think we have enough players, and we've shown it over the last couple of years. We scored 91 goals in the league last year from a team which has Odegaard in it. We had Saka, Martinelli, obviously less so Jesus and Havertz, but people like Trossard and Declan Rice who score goals. Or for me, the biggest issue was not putting people in the right positions in the forward areas to deputise when they come in, as we've seen with Odegaard missing this season, Saka as well. So I think that was, from a personal point, the biggest issue for me. But I can see the argument for needing a number 9, and there's a possibility that we'll go for someone in the summer, maybe like Isak or Sesko from Leipzig.
Yeah, obviously Vlahovic has been linked consistently for the last 2 years or so. It seems Tessa's really got a thing for him. Maybe he wins a lot of duels, who knows? But I remember you saying, like, it does seem that that sort of left wing spot in particular was one that you said was quite problematic. Obviously, Trossard's seemingly better as an impact player. Obviously, we know he pushed very big for Mudryk, which may or not be a blessing in disguise. I don't know yet. Martinelli's sort of come back to form a bit, it seems. But I remember you saying it was sort of like, sort of that wide left option was one that was, something of a bit of a priority. Obviously, in the end, you got Raheem Sterling to do that job, which is pretty bad news for us, given he seems to like playing Forest quite a lot. I think he scored 4 or 5 goals in like 3 games against us since he's been promoted. So do you think he'll play on Saturday, or do you think it'll be Martinelli sort of keeping his spot after Brazil duty?
Barring any injury surprise, I think Brazil play tonight. I think they play tonight. So hopefully, I don't know if he'll actually play. They've got quite a few options there. So I think he'll probably play on Saturday at the game. I think it's a bit of an issue because obviously his numbers were so high a couple of seasons ago, 15 league goal, I think set joint highest for Brazil in the Premier League. And it's kind of, the fall off has been, astronomical since, really. I personally think that the departure of Granit Xhaka in a very different role to the one that Kai Havertz tried to play at the beginning of last season, Declan Rice did play, and the one that Mikael Moreno and Trossard so far have played this season. Kind of having this underlapping number 8 charging into the box, almost Lampard-esque in a way, and can contribute. I think he contributed to like over 15 goals in that season, Granit Xhaka, and I think that really helped Gabriel Martinelli in the way he was able to move and kind of make movements in behind. Maybe teams weren't so naive in that way in letting us have so much space and having the ball. And nowadays it's a bit different because everyone puts 10 men behind us, and we can't really complain about that because every team has the right to play the way they want to. But I think he'll probably play. I can't really see a world in which Sterling would start, to be honest. I think he'd even probably try and play Jesus over him out wide at the moment. I think, it says a lot that he's not. Even in certain games, I think against Liverpool, he trusted Wineri and Skelly to come on in games like that, and it happened before Bournemouth as well. I know Sterling actually did start the game, but up on the right hand side, I think it's more of a deputy for probably Saka at this moment in time. And if we were to lose both of them, then yeah. But I can't see Sterling starting for sure on Saturday.
I did want to ask you about your recent form, Alex. Obviously, it's kind of been a little up and down since that loss to Bournemouth. You've lost to Newcastle into Champions League, which is we lost to Newcastle the other week, and it would be quite nice to lose to Inter in a Champions League game, but it's been a little bit up and down. What would you put that down to? Is that kind of a team's kind of working Arsenal out, or is it just kind of rubber the green, or what is it? What would you put your finger on?
Those 2 particular games are actually quite chalk and cheese, to be fair, because the Newcastle one I would say is probably the worst I've seen us play in 3 years. I thought Newcastle actually credits themselves. They were so good off the ball and they really worked, kind of knew how to, block the passing lanes and kind of double up on the wingers, etc. And we weren't really able. Havertz basically didn't even play in the position he should have, and that didn't really help. We had one chance and it was in the 94th minute. So that game was just a complete out-tacticked us, basically outwitted us. The Inter Milan game, I was there. It was obviously an amazing stadium, first and foremost. Great to visit there. But the game, I actually thought we played really well. We had 14 corners. That we had so many little chances without having. I think apart from Inter hitting the bar and then obviously scoring a penalty, we pretty much had a lot of ball, played in their half the whole time, and just couldn't score. So it's quite the fact those two games were like 3 or 4 days apart. It's kind of really weird to see the fluctuation in performance levels from Newcastle to Inter. And we kind of did okay against Chelsea a few days later as well. I thought we defended quite well, and obviously Neto did what he did, and we shouldn't have allowed him the space because it was a big gap. But I think kind of after Newcastle, in the 2 games that we've had, or especially that week, we've been okay, and I kind of see something going forward. Maybe it helps with Odegaard kind of being back in around the team. That definitely helps.
Just before Christian comes in, is that kind of an issue that you need to kind of address going forward? Maybe not January, but maybe the summer, where you need someone that will replace Odegaard if he has this issue again. I thought
they had someone. They sold him.
I've seen Winieri quite a lot, like in terms of like youth level. I mean, is he someone that could step up? Obviously, Christian mentions who did they sell? I can't even remember. You're gonna have to help me out there.
Smith Rowe, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, Smith Rowe, yeah, of course. Who's thriving at Fulham, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the obvious one is Winieri. He's obviously shown a lot this season. I think he played quite a prominent role in the pre-season games as well in America, which maybe gives you an indication of where the manager may see him or club see him in the next 18 months, 2 years at least. But he started against Preston and was unbelievable. Bolton as well. Yeah, and I think a lot of people have been kind of calling for him to start matches, maybe because of the absence of Odegaard. But I mean, the thing for me is he is only 17, and that is, that's the bottom line for Arsenal. My opinion is for Arsenal to kind of be relying on a player who's 17 to run your midfield in the absence of Martin Odegaard. That there lies a problem. As much as I really want him to start and want him to play, I just think that you can't put yourself in a position where you allow that to happen on the back of running Manchester City very close. That's just the way I see it. However, go back to your question on what I think we should do. I think we need to sign a player who is able to kind of be quite versatile. I mean, someone I look at is Mohamed Kudus, so I think it's a great ball carrier. He can play kind of in the half space or out wide, and I think that would be someone that I look at.
It's actually, I was actually going to ask about Smith Rowe, to be fair. Just sort of jumped right in. But if Winieri is your next option, he's only 17, surely it would make more sense to keep hold of him and not buy Merino. I mean, I remember you saying before that it's things like that just seem a bit odd. And then obviously it's been a bit of a rough start and, it's not irretrievable. But what's the current sort of like fan mood at the minute? Because do you think there's a sort of like a case of we've missed the boat, or do you think there's a case of the best is still to come?
I think there's a lot. It's more missed the boat, to be honest. I think people look at the transfer window and go, "With this, it was just a disaster, really." Chasing Nico Williams all summer and then to end up with Sterling from Chelsea on deadline day, which actually didn't even get time, tells you enough to think where the fan mood is. And then kind of, I think it's not just that though. It's more the fact that we were about 30 seconds away from winning at the Etihad with 10 men. Could have been avoided. We were 2-1 up when we go down to 10 men. Bournemouth 0-0, we lose 2-0. And games like that and things like that have all contributed to, I think, not just on the manager, it's on certain players as well. Trossard, namely, Gabriel Jesus, people like that. Zinchenko as well, kind of players and the manager have, kind of almost hit the self-destruct button. So I think a lot of people kind of think that it's probably gone just because that gap is enormous for us to be able to overturn it. We've got to be, at like we were at in the first half of 2024 levels to kind of retrieve it. I think if we'd have won against Chelsea, it may have been different. But, I'm not going to sit here and say we're out of it because I don't think it's a long season, but it just seems irretrievable now. And I think based on how we approached the transfer window, I would say that probably was the starting point really for a lot of fans and how they view it.
I've got to ask, before Alan comes in, obviously one of the key sort of people of that transfer window, I guess, would be Edu Gaspar, who is now recently departed Arsenal and unofficially working for Marinakis across his sort of plethora of clubs, which seems to be ever growing now. Have you seen sort of Edu's impact? Do you think it's sort of been a case of him and Arteta sort of like butting heads towards the end? It sort of does seem as if you're sort of targeting a certain profile of player, like one that's sort of maybe better in the air. And obviously Arteta's been very hot on like minor tweaks, like look how ruthless he was with Ramsdale and Raya, for example. He obviously saw something in the data that suggested that Ramsdale wasn't going to be a number one to win the league, and was very like quick to act on that and didn't really care who he upset in the process of doing so. So obviously he has his ways. He's sort of like quite sort of like focused on that. Do you think there's a bit of an element of that in the transfer strategy, or do you think that Eddie was the one sort of pulling all the strings?
I think it was probably you've got to be in line with each other, and I think that's how a successful football club really should be run. Is you've got to have enough people, kind of, you get all your ducks in a row and have them all effectively singing from the same hymn sheet. And I mean, the reason for departure is probably one that's come out of the blue. But obviously, if you look at it and you go, okay, well, he's going to be this for the, for Mackis, and he's going to get 3 times his salary what he's on now. Maybe there was some level of disagreement, but I think it's actually overlooked a bit more by us, because we think, oh, well, after the form that we've kind of been on, the run we've been on, to hear that about your technical director, and then he's like, oh my god, have they fallen out? Is there a certain disagreement at board level? Is he jumping ship because we signed Marino and let Smith Rowe go and stuff like that? And you kind of think the worst in that situation. But I just think that maybe he's probably maybe on his course. He's felt he's done enough there. He's taken us from a period, of really, poor how we were run as a club and how we were on the pitch to now. He's probably just thought, yeah, I've got an offer here and I'll take it.
I find it a little bit odd, because I just feel like if it was a project he was helping build and it's kind of not reached its climax of you winning the league, or at least winning something. I know you've won the FA Cup. I don't know if he was there during that period of time, but do you know what I mean? Like, you've not reached the pinnacle of it all. And I just feel like it can't be. I mean, money's obviously a big factor. He's got tripled his wages, supposedly. I mean, it's quite hard to turn that sort of money down. But I just thought, like, Arsenal is such a big side. I just find it a bit weird that he would just jump ship when he's not kind of achieved what he probably set out to do.
Yeah, I can see that argument, to be fair. I think that's another reason why people go, oh, we've not actually finished anything yet. We've not achieved anything. Why has he jumped ship? But I mean, there's very little detail about it, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, we are looking for replacements and stuff, but there's a possibility that this transfer strategy wasn't in line. Someone was unhappy with how things went in the summer. Could be anything like that. I personally just think that maybe he's felt he's taken Arsenal as far as he could, and he wanted a new challenge. That's just the way I see it. Obviously, news could come out that isn't the case, but that is just how. I mean, I can see the view from it's kind of not the project that he started or where he was and how it's happened. It's not really reached a certain level yet where you can go, yeah, this is only going to go down. I'm going to jump ship, basically. But I think it's just a case of where he got a better offer and Arsenal maybe going in a different direction to where he wanted to go.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's very interesting, I suppose. Like, when something like that happens to a club like Arsenal, it sort of becomes maybe bigger news than it maybe should be. But it's quite fascinating all the same, just because of like all the dynamics and stuff behind it. But actually, looking ahead to Saturday, it was interesting you mentioned Newcastle working so hard off the ball and shutting your wingers down, because I imagine that's how Forest will look to line up. Obviously, me and Adam may have different views on this, but we sort of had a little bit of a lineup chat earlier, and we'll go for yours as well, Bernsey, to sort of go see what you've got on the other side of the coin. But I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Forest start in the same way they did at Liverpool. So with no wingers, with Dominguez and Anderson out wide, basically to nullify the wide threat, and basically try and stay in the game for an hour or so, and then look to bring on some pace merchants in Elanga and Hudson-Odoi towards the end of the game and try and swing it in our favour. If that was the game plan, how do you think you'd be able to cope with that?
I mean, to be honest, watching Arsenal trying to break a low block is one of the most painful things, and certainly the most difficult things in football. Anyway, I mean, if we were playing each other 3 weeks ago and Odegaard wasn't in that team, I genuinely think we are in trouble, because there is genuinely no one in that team. I don't care if we played at Wineri, he would not be able to do that. I don't think that there is a player. I mean, he is the perfect player for us to break teams down. Is Martin Odegaard. Passing, just the way he's able to move the ball. It's going to be difficult. It is, because we've played teams like Everton under Sean Dyche and teams like that. They are incredibly difficult to break down. But again, it's one thing where you could get a moment, you get a corner or a penalty, whatever it is, and that changes the complexity of the game differently. Much like last season when we played you on the opening day, it wasn't a particularly fluid game. It was quite difficult, it was quite tetchy, and we scored a couple of goals, and then you scored one, and suddenly it's a different game, and it's like that threat from Elanga is kind of one that I'll expect to see because, like I said to you earlier about the Zinchenko thing, I think once maybe we've committed enough people forward, that is the sort of thing that could happen, and that is the danger of kind of committing enough players to break down a team who've got 9 behind the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I've just put up what Christian's team was going to be, what he sent me. So he's put, just for our audio listeners, Matt Sells in goal, back five still the same. So Olaena, Milenkovic, Murillo, Alex Moreno. That's hoping Olaena's still fit. Dominguez, Yates, Ward-Prowse, Anderson across midfield with Gibbs White just supporting the evergreen Chris Wood, who just keeps on scoring hat-trick the other night for the New Zealand team against, I can't really remember who they played, some minnows obviously, but
Samoa, weren't it? I think
was it Samoa? Yeah. I mean, they're getting better, obviously. But that is a kind of just a very hard-working kind of side there, Alex. I mean, does Martin Odegaard like getting kicked? Because they're all kickers.
Anyone, I think Saka's probably certainly someone who gets a little bit sick for the way he reacts to being kicked at the moment. But he is someone who probably draws it, more than anyone, really. And I think, I mean, it's quite I can't really sit here and moan about it because I saw us do it for 75 or 60 minutes at Manchester City earlier in the season. But, I think it basically is, as much as, it's annoying to watch and kind of it's frustrating, it's on us to be able to break that down. And the 4 centre midfielder thing has obviously worked, and it's you're the only team to beat Liverpool this season, so it would kind of be stupid not to follow the same tactic against another team. Sort of in the
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Christian will agree with this, but I just think it's a bit more difficult against a side where you've got someone that plays quite naturally in that number 10 in the pocket in Odegaard, whereas Liverpool don't really have that player. They've kind of just got all athletes in their midfield who can kind of do a bit of everything. Whereas Odegaard has got that kind of speciality, hasn't he, Christian? I mean, I don't know if Christian would agree with this because I kind of like tinkered with his lineup a little bit. Whereas I think when we're in the attack, we might kind of do this. I know I've swapped Dominguez there over, but like Anderson and Gibbs White might kind of form almost a box to try and attack. But I don't know if that will like really work against Arsenal because they are pretty stern in defence, although this season been a little bit suspect. I don't know what you think, Christian.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I think I also wouldn't be shocked if we started with a flat, like a 3, well, it'd probably be a 5-3-2 effectively out of possession. But I wouldn't be surprised if we went for a back 3, probably with Morato coming straight into start, just to lock it down. I think, obviously some of the analysis accounts have picked up on that. That was one of the big things that sort of caught us out at Newcastle in the second half, was not having like that sort of solidity along the back. And, Arsenal are going to move the ball better than Newcastle are. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if they go for that sort of back 3 approach and try and really shore it up. It could even be a 5-4-1 out of possession if you still have that sort of those 4 centre midfields, like starting ahead of the back, like the back 5, if you like. I also think if a lot depends on Ina's fitness too, because if he isn't fit to start, I think I probably would feel more comfortable with a back 3 of Williams playing personally. But just because I think that plays into his strengths better rather than anything else. But yeah, it's all speculative, of course, for now. Obviously, the only person Nathan do know, but I guess this is why he gets paid the big bucks, because we've got quite a bit of like variety to our team for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I mean, we've not played a back 3, so it'd be interesting. I do kind of agree with you actually. If Olaida isn't available, I think back 3 it will suit Nico Williams and Moreno. Is adapt to getting forward and kind of then you can kind of play all their midfielders. It doesn't really matter as much without the width because you've got that support. But Alex, we're going to bring your side up that you sent in to us, so it's pretty much unchanged. What Zinchenko at left back does kind of is a question for you because he came to Arsenal to kind of play and really hasn't a lot because, like you mentioned, he's a bit injury prone. But what makes you choose him and not having Yuri and Timber at left back and Ben White at right back? Because Ben White's been a bit absent recently, but he's been pretty solid over the last few seasons. What's happened there?
So Ben White has actually had knee surgery this week, so he's going to be out for about 10 weeks.
Right.
So no way he can play. Obviously, he's kind of been looking at, against Liverpool and all, we haven't played at home for a month. So the last time we played at home, played Liverpool, Thomas Partey was actually at right back in the second half. I think he took Timber off after an hour. He'd been injured for the last sort of 3 weeks. So it's been there's a lot of variations to what we've been doing recently. Personally, I just think a game like this where we're going to have a lot of the balls, Zinchenko actually works really well. I think he drops into midfield quite well, and Timber, it'll either be Timber going down the outside or it will kind of have Partey shuffle into the back to make it kind of like a back three. I just think Zinchenko works really well in when we've got the ball to kind of like, cut the lines, break the lines, etc. He's very technically sound. And I just think that kind of game for him, when it's everything's kind of in front of him, is more suited to. The flip side of that is obviously, as I said to Christian, with maybe he's got Hudson-Odoi and Elanga running at him, that could be a problem, or even Ola Aina, to be fair. It could be it's a bit suspect defensively, but I think you kind of have to take the rough with the smooth really, and just say, well, does his quality, potentially in this game outweigh what he lacks going, defensively? But I just think we're well balanced when we've got Partey and Rice together. So I kind of looked at it and go, okay, well, I prefer to have Timber at right back and have Zinchenko and what he offers on the ball than I would to take Partey out of midfield and play him at right back.
That seems like a pretty much fair assessment. I mean, where is Zinchenko? You'd probably say is your biggest weakness there. I'm imagining, but like the thing what I'm a bit worried about it. I don't know if you think this, Christian, as well, is the physicality in midfield. Partey and Rice are pretty strong players in there in terms of strength and kind of athleticism, whereas we've got kind of ankle biters, if you want to call them that, or ankle kickers, because like Dominguez is not the biggest, Ward-Prowse not really the biggest. Yates is a big lump, but like not as athletic, I would say, as either of them two. So I think that's a big kind of battle in there, isn't it?
I would agree. I think the worry is that it might go a bit like last game, where our midfields who aren't exactly like weak or anything like that. They're quite like it's a strong midfield, but they just got bullied by a bigger midfield in obviously Bruno and Joe Linton, and obviously with Longstaff backing them up. I feel like we've had a discussion with Yates before. I feel when Yates is playing against a sort of a more technical-minded midfielder, like we've seen this season already with Enzo Fernandez or like McAllister, especially, all the World Cup winners basically. Where he can sort of throw his weight around, kick them, get in their heads, sort of thing. That's all well and good. It has a massive impact. But when you play someone like, who's twice the size of Yates, like Joe Linton or Partey, it doesn't quite work. So I do wonder if we were to play multiple midfielders, central midfielders, sorry, like the four we've mentioned, where you see one sort of come inside, sort of help out or something like that. Maybe Yates sort of sticks on Odegaard, because I think he might get a bit of joy out of him playing that game away, for example. That'll be where, as most football games did, the game will be won or lost in that midfield battle, I suppose. And which is a little scary considering that the two midfielders that Burnsy's picked there cost 145 million between them. So in Rice and Partey. So it'll certainly be an interesting one.
Yeah. Alex, do you know with how well Forest has defended this season, especially like with Milenkovic and Murillo, do you kind of worry about Arsenal being able to kind of penetrate that back four, back five, or even if it is a back six in terms of having three centre halves there? Because Havertz is not like your out and out striker. He's not going to run like crazy channels. He's not going to like run away from Murillo as such, if you know what I mean. Is he going to have to be quite intelligent in terms of how he plays to get joy out of our defence?
Yes, obviously Milenkovic possibly signing of the season across the league. Christian's been waxing lyrical about him and how well he's adapted, and their partnership currently in the league. I think it's going to be very difficult anyway. I think the fact that there's a possibility there may be three centre halves there is kind of a scary thought for me personally. I just think the way that, like you said, actually, to be fair, with the way that Havertz isn't necessarily a number 9, he's almost like a 9.5 to the, like in between the 10 and the 9. Possibly not really a runner into certain areas in the box, which maybe Odegaard is the kind of player who would do that. But again, Havertz is a player who probably quite good in the air, but is he going to get that opportunity with them two or whoever else would possibly play at centre half? So it's going to be a very difficult game to watch. To be fair, I think I'm not saying that I'm going to expect you to sit behind the ball and that's all you're going to do but again, the way you've played in certain games this season, obviously West Ham I thought was probably one of the best games I've seen personally from Forest for a while. I thought we could have been 6 or 7, to be honest. Liverpool as well, you were very good defensively, and kind of, that the way that you play in those games, it's a benchmark for how you would approach other games, like you did at Chelsea as well. I think, did you have 10 men in that game for a period?
Yeah,
Last
for
like
a while.
15, 25 minutes in the end, it turned out with the amount of stoppage time it was. But yeah.
I mean, it's worked in those types of games. So again, I'm looking at it from a stats point of view or a data point of view. I'm looking at it and going, yeah, okay, it's going to be very hard to kind of deal with that. And what works. And yeah, I can only commend how that defense has been this season. Watching it, and obviously you're proving it. You're in that part of the league already.
And lastly, but not least, sorry, can we get a score prediction from you?
It's a difficult one because I've thought about this and I've actually done my Super 6 already, but I'm going to say right now 1-1.
Interesting, because I've gone 1-0 as well, and I think Adam did too.
I'd 100% take it.
Yeah, I think we definitely, it'd be a better point for us than it would be for you. But I think a lot depends on Odegaard, to be honest. If Odegaard's a bit sharper, then it's going to be very difficult for us to only concede 1 goal. But he is the key, really. I think he's just one of those special kind of players that can just turn a game on its head. And as you said earlier on, Mersey, like other teams, especially Newcastle, found a way to sort of combat his absence. But with him on the pitch, I think Arsenal are very much a different entity.
Yeah, I think obviously having him back is just. I mean, I was at the Chelsea game a couple of weeks ago, and obviously the goal came literally from just a pass that no one else on the pitch probably would have seen. And you can make questions, you can ask about the quality of the goalkeeping, whatever, but the ability for that pass is just it's like, wow, this is what we've missed. And kind of these games, rather than the ones against Chelsea and the so-called top 6 clubs, are the ones that I look at and go, yeah, he's actually the one that I think we miss more. We played games against Southampton this season, Leicester as well, and for periods they've been a lot more difficult than they should have been. Maybe you go 1-0 up or whatever and you kind of coast, but with him it doesn't ever get to that stage because you're able to. He's better on the ball. He recycles it well. Turnovers are higher, and you can see things that other people on the pitch can't. So yeah, I think you're probably right, Christian. To be fair, I think he's probably one that holds the key as to whether this maybe goes Arsenal's way or is kind of like a stalemate or a 1-1 or something.
How scared are you, Chris Wood, Alex? I just like asking everyone that, by the way, because it's just funny.
I mean, it's quite an incredible story, to be fair, considering his age. And I actually saw a video of him scoring for Birmingham City in the Europa League the other day. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Like 12 years ago, yeah.
But again, like I think it's just an incredible story, really, or how it's kind of going and how consistent he's been. Maybe not even just this season, but I think like since Boxing Day last year or whenever Nuno took over, it's kind of been been this guy who's kind of gone to another level in a way that probably Raul Jimenez did when he was at Wolves with Nuno as well. And it's kind of a player who is 31, kind of coming. Is he 31 or 32? I think he's
32. I think
towards the end of his career, you would think, and he's kind of proving these numbers and being so vocal for Forest. It's just working right now. It's great. I mean, his performance against Leicester was great as well.
Certainly was. Actually, just one last thing. Actually, I just noticed. I just seen this now of who scored regarding set pieces, because obviously Arsenal are seen as like a set piece kings over the league, aren't they? I think obviously get a lot of joy out of them. I've just seen this stat from who scored saying that our record from set pieces in 2024 versus 23-24 will be 24-25 per game. So we scored 0.18 from a set piece last season. This season it's 0.45. per set piece, and we conceded 0.58 goals per set piece per game. Sorry, last season. Whereas now we're conceding 0.18. I mean, we only conceded twice from set pieces this season. One was a direct free kick, and one was a corner last week. Do you think that that could be a sort of like two sort of unstoppable forces sort of coming together and seeing what happens in that regards? Because obviously Arsenal are very good, and we seem to be improved massively in defending.
Yeah, possibly. I think when we played Tottenham in the last 2 games away from home, set pieces, you just come absolutely were all over them. Maybe because they don't know how to defend anyway.
But he says mate a lot. It gets away with it apparently. So,
but they defend and they let their goalkeeper stand there. You kind of unmanned is very easy to kind of score or certainly get chances. But it's a weird one because this season it looks like we've been good from set pieces, but we had a lot in certain games, like against Inter. There was kind of nothing from that. Newcastle, Declan Rice's delivery was to levels that I've never seen him, hitting the first man like 3 or 4 times. So it's like it swings and roundabouts. Really, you can have one game where you score 2 from, but then the next 3 you don't get nothing, and you kind of have a really bad delivery day. So it really depends. But again, I think this is very tactical. It's like, how are Arsenal going to kind of approach it? Are they going to have 3 men at the back post, or and then it's kind of about following your runners really. But obviously, you've got people in there who are of significant size. So it's a lot easier to deal with than it would be, say, I don't know, Christian Romero or Van de Ven, who are kind of not really kind of that type in the air, I would say.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
That's just to give an example. There's other teams out there who are worse than them.
It should be a good game anyway, hopefully. And I'm hopeful that Forest can catch you cold after the international break a bit, but I think will remain to be seen. It's a very tough test for us, but we go to much just like we went to Anfield, we go with obviously hope rather than expectation, but a bit more hope this time, I think, than we would have had a few months ago, certainly. And as always, we'll have our post-match roundup on the Sunday, I believe. And yeah, until then, obviously safe travels to everyone who's going to the game. Many thanks for coming on, Burns, if you appreciate it. And yeah, come on, you Reds.